Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for coming here today. And a special thank you to Julie and Gary as well, who's joining us. We are talking today about the fascinating subject of strategic flexible funding. So we're going to be talking a little bit about sort of flexibility with funding, from the point of view of the funder and the grant holder. And we'll also touch on strategic funding as well. So I'm going to start with you, Julie. Of course, the fabulous dementia-friendly Prestwick received £15,000 from the Life Changes Trust in July 2020. And I can remember your application arriving in April 2020. What a time to be applying for funding, because obviously that was just when COVID was starting to impact. So can you tell us a little bit about how your plans changed from the time when you submitted your application in March and April 2020 to the reality of actually delivering the project?
Yeah, morning everybody. So our initial application was to fund a pilot project that would see us open a meeting centre in Prestwick, and the funding would give us 3 months worth to test the concept. It would allow us to rent a venue and to hire 3 members of staff. So I'm sure everybody knows a meeting centre is like a social club for people with early to moderate dementia and their families. And we were so keen for ours to be the first on the west coast of Scotland that we didn't want to squander this opportunity though, because it was the biggest amount of funding that Dementia Friendly Prestwick had raised to date. And because the pilot project was due to last for 3 months, none of us felt there was a big rush to deliver something straight away when the circumstances weren't quite right. So we spoke with you guys, obviously, and together we agreed that it was much more important to change the mechanics so that the end result was still the same, which is a successful meeting centre opening up in Prestwick. So what we decided to do is fund a person to work on the strategy for Dementia Friendly Prestwick achieving a successful meeting centre. And the flexibility was hugely important because it meant we could adapt to the circumstances. And as I say, instead of squandering the money, which is it's been a massive game changer for us, we could use it in the most responsible way possible. And the person that this fund has funded, we found the perfect venue, we've negotiated rents, and we've raised an additional £125,000 for the whole meeting centre project. So that's what the flexibility is meant to us.
And I suppose if you would have had to stick strictly and rigidly to what you had put down in your application, you probably wouldn't have been able to deliver that because of the circumstances that we all found ourselves in at the time.
Exactly. The stop-start nature of COVID guidelines would have just rendered it impossible. It would have sucked all our energy and enthusiasm out. It would have confused and frustrated the people that were looking to support, and it just wouldn't have been successful. It would have been a missed opportunity, which nobody wants. And I think it took a bit of bravery, a bit of courage, and you showed good faith in us, and that really helped. It helped us to get to this point where we're now, we're possibly miles further than we would have been had we stuck to the original plan and had COVID not hit. So we're thrilled at where we are, and we couldn't have done it without sort of a very reassuring guiding hand from the funders, from yourselves.
Seeing as you made such a success of it, can you tell us, what does flexible funding mean to you, and what are you looking for in a flexible funder?
So in terms of flexible funding, you guys listened to us because we know what our community needed, and it wasn't the same solution doesn't suit every community, and nor should it. And for a flexible funder to recognise that yes, you're funding projects nationally, and there are certain themes that you are supporting because you've done the research into it, still how that adapt to the local needs. And the flexibility meant that we could do what we wanted to do at the time that it was right to do it at, for the best possible outcome. And it's also for me personally, as the person who writes these funding applications sometimes at midnight, the flexibility means that I actually find you get the best results, I think, when there's like a safe environment is created between the funder and the applicant. Because I don't want to ask for money in a false pretense. I don't want to get money in a false pretense, because that doesn't work for anybody. So being able to ask hard questions, being able to be honest, I think is very valuable. And that's a hard thing to get, especially when the funding landscape changes. So Colin, you're a trusty pair of hands, and we've lent on you hugely, and it's been appreciated.
Dementia Friendly Press made such a success of it, and I think a lot of the reason for that is the fact that we had a really good relationship with you, but you had a really good relationship with your volunteers and your board, and now your staff and everything as well. So all that investment in that has helped. I think that's kind of where we would want to kind of take it from there. And I think I'm going to hand over to Mary, if that's okay. Now, thanks very much, Julie.
Yeah, definitely. It was so good to hear a lot of what you've been talking about, Julie, because I think now I'm going to chat to Gary. He will understand and appreciate, and hopefully a lot of it will resonate. As I mean, Gary, you've worked in a local setting, at local authority level, and then you've worked at national level in relationship with the trust. So you've worn some different hats. As a funder, I think we try to support people when they're faced with blockages and challenges, like some of the things we've heard Julie talk about. Has flexibility been a key factor in your relationship with the trust too?
Definitely, Mary. I think if I think back to when I was sort of doing the work with Perth Champs Board and sort of leading on the corporate parent and youth work, the whole thing with Life Changes. So I think it was really interesting that the relationship with the staff was really important to the work that we were doing, and that so it kind of felt like the Life Changes Trust staff you were engaging with were part of the work you were doing locally. That's how it felt like to me. And if there needed to be sort of changes of focus because of, well, COVID, but just because of people's lives and things that were going on, and people maybe trying something and going, oh, this isn't working, maybe we need to slightly look at things this way and change direction. And that may be then changing timelines and all that kind of thing. The working with Life Changes Trust was brilliant in that you were never thinking, oh, is this going to be a problem? You were like, oh, we'll need to have a conversation with Life Changes Trust staff, who will be lovely and nice and understanding and person-centered and all that kind of good stuff. So when you know, whatever the steps you had to take forward, it was never felt stressful at all, because you knew you just had to work through what the issue was.
And we've gone from kind of talking about some of the local stuff to national level stuff as well. And I think I want to bring the conversation around to this idea of being a strategic funder and making strategic investments in things. You know, for us, some of that strategic investment, or most of it, is about bringing young people's voices to the fore, so that they can affect really informed system change. Do you see this sort of, the way that you've interacted with the trust, you see those investments as being strategic, and the work that you do right now as being strategic?
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually like thinking about that when you were asking the question, Mary. I almost think other people are seeing that as well. So just an example of that is there's like 3 organisations who, before we've even really set up the National Leadership Network, want to work with us, that being Collective Leadership Scotland, Education Scotland and Health Improvement Scotland, obviously all national organisations. And what they've wanted to do is work with us because of the way we're working, and for that to influence their strategic thinking. They like, the thing that all of them have said is that so far what they've seen with us is that we say we want to have young people front and centre in all aspects of the work we do, including the strategic thinking and all the strategic work we do. and that we're doing that. So they're kind of seeing that we've said, we will do this. Oh, and they have done it. Oh, how did you do that? So, you know, I think that's really good that, you know, how we're looking at the strategic part of the National Leadership Network already is influencing other people nationally. So that's fantastic to me, that that's, you can see that happening already. That's really, really exciting. And those organizations we'll work with throughout the next 4 or 5 years, hopefully, and things will develop. But as well as the more you do that, I think other people are then looking and saying, oh, that's interesting. That could help our kind of strategic thinking and like really involving the people that we're working with in decision making all through everything we do.
It's brilliant to hear that as part of the legacy of the trust, you know, being a sort of connector, supporting people to work strategically together has always been something we've been very focused on. So I'm going to finish now actually by asking both you, Gary, and you, Julie, a question. So I'll start with Gary and then we'll finish with Julie, if that's okay. So this is the $1 million question. What is your headline message for other funders today?
I would say flexibility, obviously, but I think it's more than that. I think it's being person-centered, trying to understand the people that you're working with, how you're going to do that, build relationships, have relationships with the people that you're trying to work with and the people who support them. I think that's huge. I think that way you come across, you know, an interest, and this may be a good thing to finish off with. I never ever see Life Changes Trust as a fund, and I never did, even when they were funding all the work I did in Perth. I never actually thought of the organisation as funders because they were so about people. I saw it more as being, so I wasn't thinking of money. I was thinking of people and relationships from the off. And still now, being a part of Life Changes Trust, I'm like, it's so about the people. It's not about you know, structures that are like that and things, and it's not that. So I think, you know, just looking at the way that Life Changes Trust staff have been about relationships, about people, about inclusion, all that stuff that needs to be integral to the dementia world, to me, and the care experience world.
Thank you, Gary. Julie?
I would say be ambitious, be confident, and network. And I must add, I think the reason you invited me on to talk about flexible funding is because I actually find it quite hard to ask for help. I come from the private sector, and you know, for a while I sold advertising. You know, I'm all into contracts and negotiations, and when things change or get difficult, I think my default position is to say, oh, I'm breaching the contract, I've broken the contract. And Life Changes Trust were the best. It pretty much has hit me over the head with a willingness to talk, and you have helped change how I make funding applications for the better. So I feel this has been some kind of intervention for me personally to say that funders are just people. So talk, share your passion, make your funding applications relevant and engaging, because it's regular people who will be reading them and making the judgments. So just that would be my advice.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Colm?
I've got nothing else to say other than thank you very much. I mean, from our point of view, we've always kind of seen the grants as an investment. And if you don't look after that investment, the investment's not really going to pay back. So thank you all very much. I think that's about us. Thank you so much for kind of helping us along here today. And we really appreciate everything that you've kind of done. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.